Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Ed Kaiser from Gimmal, and we've got a really fun one lined up today. Sharks, Rex, and Tex, who makes the rules, who holds the tools, and how we work together. And where this comes from, I'm sure if you've ever tried to get your legal team, your I team, and your records team on the same page about what it means to, well, what is a record? We're going to delete a record. We're going to archive a record. You know that these discussions can get, well, let's just say interesting. And that's what we're going to dive into today, the different perspectives. We're going to have a few laughs and how we can actually get all of these players in your world working better and working together. I am very excited to introduce you to Tyreen Bada, who's going to lead us through it today. Tyreen is from the city of Beaverton, but I like her LinkedIn description best. She is an information governance and records enthusiast. And I think as we go through this, you will know what I mean by enthusiast in about 10 seconds. So, Tyreen, if you can take it away.
Hi, everybody, and thanks, Ed, for the very flattering introduction. Let's get going. But actually, before we get started, I have to have a disclaimer because I work with lawyers. I am not an attorney. Any and all commentary, statements, opinions, and/or advice is solely and wholly of my own and not of my employer, the City of Beaverton, nor of Arma International. Okay, on
And
with the
Tyreen, I'll
show.
just interrupt you for 1 second as I remind everyone if they have questions, please put them in the Q&A uh, down below, and we'll get to them as we can at the end, or we will come back to you post webinar with responses. Sorry, Tyreen, go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you, Ed. So, yes, my name is Tyreen. Yes, I am a Swiftie, and no, I did not get to go to the Eras tour. But yes, I do know all the lyrics to all her songs. And yes, I have a very large Taylor Swift vinyl record collection. But believe it or not, I do enjoy other types of music like Motown, classic big band jazz standards, EDM, house music, and musical theater. And yes, I do like her new album. It's a lot of fun. Yes, the reviews aren't great, but why not? She has nothing left to prove. She's the biggest pop star in the world. Okay. I am the former chapter president of the Oregon chapter of ARMA. Rest in peace. She no longer exists. But I used to be on the board of the Great Northwest region, and I recently served on the ARMA International Board of Directors. Currently, I am the chair of the ARMA International Conference Education Committee, where we oversee the selection of educational sessions for all of the ARMA conferences. So we have InfoNext, ARMA Canada, and InfoCon. So please let me know if you're what you'd like to see at InfoCon next year, or if you're interested in presenting. As Ed said, I do work at the City of Beaverton as a business systems analyst in information technology and services. But you know what? I wasn't always in IT. I was originally hired as a records management specialist in the city attorney's office. And in my current role, I have worked on a number of software implementations. Yes, but not just any software implementations. We're talking about the systems which always seem to come with a twist. There's a legal component involved, which means from very early on, I had to pick up some interesting new skills like how to gather business requirements from attorneys who definitely don't speak in bullet points, or how to translate, another skill of translating all that legal nuance into something that a system can actually understand. And then somehow configure the software to accommodate it all. Logic, compliance, quirks, and all the caveats included. Sounds easy, right? And so over the years, I have worked closely with attorneys, both professionally and personally. Yes, my partner is a lawyer, so legal land is not just a workplace reality, it's all. And now, as a business systems analyst, I live squarely in the IT world too. So I'm basically a full-time resident of both of these worlds. And let me tell you, legal and IT, they do not always speak the same language. One group thinks in terms of statute, precedent, and risk, and the other thinks of terms in logic trees, APIs, agile sprints. And they both have questions about each other. Like the lawyer would ask me, like, why can't you just program it like this? And then the developer would say, Why do the lawyers always make things so complicated? Does this sound familiar? Now, look, this presentation is not going to be a magic wand that can instantly bring harmony between legal and IT. Though if anyone's got one, I'd love to borrow it. But what I do have are insights from my practical, lived in, and hard-won experiences into how these two cultures operate, how they communicate, and how you, as the records and information management professional that you are, can come can become a powerful bridge between them. Because when legal and IT aren't aligned, records and data governance suffer. But when you understand the mindset and language of both, you can you can help bring clarity, collaboration, and dare I say it, maybe even a little peace. So, today we're going on a little bit of an adventure. Think of it as a workplace dramedy with a touch of mystery, some action, and a lot of relationship building. We're going to meet the cast of characters that can either champion or challenge a successful records management and information governance program. Some are misunderstood, some are mysterious, but all are essential. We will unpack the myths and stereotypes, confront the fears, and shine a light on all the actual cultures and motivations behind each group. You will start to see that no one is the villain in the story. They just speak different languages and operate by different rules. Then we will talk about how to build relationships and alliances with these groups. How do you earn their trust? How do you get them to show up to your meetings? How do you get them to care? And finally, we'll explore some practical techniques to bring all the players together so that we're not just coexisting, we're actually collaborating. Because when legal, IT, and records are aligned, the whole organization wins, right? But first, let's have a little bit of some interaction. I know a lot of us in this profession are introverts, so if we were in a big room together, if I were to call on someone, probably no one would raise their hands. So I found this new program called Menti. So if you want to scan the QR code or go to this website and enter this code, I'll give you a second to do that. We are going to have just a couple of polls within the presentation. So I'll give you about 5 more seconds to do that, and then we'll go on to the first question. Okay, let's move on to that question. With whom would you rather be trapped in an elevator, an IT professional or an attorney, and why? So what you could do, you could just type in your answer and then it should show up right on the screen. So, and if you forgot the code, it's right at the top of the screen. You go to menti.com and use the code 41099211. I promise all of these answers are totally anonymous. I will not share it with anybody after this conversation. An attorney. Oh, right. We have a lot of lawyer love out there. Okay. Oh, got one IT friend. They're closer to real requirements. Ooh, IT. Maybe we could hack our way out, right? In those 90 movies. I'm gonna hack in. An attorney. Ooh, fun conversation. Oops, sorry. Nice. Neither. You guys are funny. All right. Oops. Let's take a look at this one more time. All right. Yep. Very good. All right. I just want to think about that for a little bit. I want to see where you're at. But it looks like we got some lawyer love coming around. Very nice. All right. Moving on. So let's start with the Recs. That's the records managers. That's us. Well, at least that's what I represent. Let's take a good look in the mirror. And what do you see? There are definitely a few stereotypes that we've all heard. In fact, we might have laughed along with them at times because, well, sometimes they hit a little close to home. But let's break them down and talk about why they're not exactly the whole story. First of all, they always say, oh, we live in the basement surrounded by boxes of paper. And yeah, that's not untrue, right? Some of us do have boxes of paper in the basement. And it's the iconic image of a records manager's domain. And it's true that we did start with a lot of paper, and back in the day, it was all about the paper trails and the filing cabinets. But we've since evolved, and so has our role. Today, we're like just as likely to be working with digital records, cloud storage, and metadata management systems as we were those dusty old file cabinets, because the basement is a thing of the past. Another myth about us is that we're obsessed with the 7-year rule. Now, it's easy to joke about how we live and die by the rule that records must be kept for a certain amount, usually 7 years. But the truth is, this rule doesn't just apply to everything, nor is it some sort of obsession. The reality is that proper retention schedules are based on legal, regulatory, and business requirements. So it's much more than just holding on to paper for 7 years. We're working to ensure compliance, security, and efficiency. But yes, sometimes we're the ones keeping things around for far longer than anyone else might want. Another myth is that we're basically just librarians in disguise. Now, many people think of records management as just about organizing, filing, and categorizing things, sort of like librarians, but with less shelving. While there are some similarities, records management involves much more than keeping things tidy. It's about ensuring that the accessibility, authenticity, and preservation of records in any format is kept true. Plus, we need to be able to acknowledge that compliance technology and risk management adds a whole new layer to our work. So we're not just custodians of knowledge, we are the protectors of information. And isn't that a noble cause? The last myth, is one of the worst ones. Again, they think we are irrelevant because they think of records as paper, as outdated. And it's a big one. This misconception that records management is a thing of the past because paper is dead is still around. Some people might think, well, everything's digital now, so there's no need for someone to manage records anymore. But records are more than just paper, right? They're emails, texts, contracts, reports, databases, blah, 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 blah. In fact, digital records come with their own set of challenges like data security, long-term preservation, and access control. We may not be running around with boxes of paper anymore, but our role is just as critical, if not more so, than ever before. And let's be honest, some of those stereotypes still persist because a lot of people still don't know what we actually do. There's a disconnect between what we used to be and what we actually are now. As the stewards of information, whether in paper, digital, or hybrid form, we are increasingly tasked with supporting businesses through ensuring compliance, security, and smooth workflows. So, in reality, we're a lot more than just the punchlines of these stereotypes, right? We are the problem solvers. We are the data protectors and the ones who understand the rules, whether they come from IT, legal, or regulations. So the next time someone asks if you are still in the basement, kindly remind them that you are overseeing an entire ecosystem of information and compliance. And trust me, no one else in the organization has a clearer picture of where all those records are and how they should be handled, right? Now, stereotypes are one thing, but let's talk about something a little bit deeper, the fears. When people hear the words records management, there's often this visible flinch, right? A tightening of the jaw, the slight eye twitch, because they think that we are about to make their lives harder. Oh no, they're going to slap a policy on this and I'll never be able to do anything again. Or does this mean that I'm gonna have to work for you now? No. Or they'll say like they're going to ask me to name all my folders, right? Using actual words. Oh, heaven forbid, right? So let's face it, nobody wakes up hoping today's the day that they learn about retention schedules. So part of our job isn't just explaining what we do, it's reassuring people that we're not here to drown them in rules. We are here to help them actually work smarter, avoid risk, and find the stuff they need when they actually need it. And that means we've got to show up not just as enforcers, but as partners. And it's something I've said for years, is that records management is an internal service to our fellow employees. We are here to help them do their jobs better and easier. Oh, I love this picture. I just had to say it. This picture was taken at Arma InfoCon in Nashville, 2022. Yeah, 2022, my last year on the board. It was done on the main stage, and I just had the best time. This group of people. I am on there. You could see I'm in the A there, with the rest of the directors on the board. And yeah, this means a lot to me. So let's talk about who we really are as records manager. Let's set the record straight. All right. Records and information professionals aren't just organizing filing cabinets or telling people how long to keep a spreadsheet. Again, we are the guardians. We are the stewards of one of the most valuable assets in any organization. It's information. And we are not the lone wolves. We are the collaborators. Most of us spend our days helping others to work smarter, not harder. Whether it's making sure the right document is in its place at the right time or streamlining a process so that it's less confusing and more compliant, we are here to help the organization run more smoothly. We are also the kind of folks who go above and beyond, not because we have to, but because we genuinely care. We're not just checking boxes, we're trying to build systems that are responsible, sustainable, and thoughtful. You could say that we're risk managers, process improvers, compliance stewards, and especially when we're digging through those ancient shared drives or reviving a mystery archive folder from 2003, we could be digital archaeologists. Isn't that cool? I like that one. But we do serious work, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. And honestly, that's part of the magic. I think that's one of the reasons I've become so enthusiastic about this profession. I have to admit, I was a bit of a late bloomer growing up. I was never good at school. When I first went to college, I failed a lot of classes. I didn't really know what I wanted to do in life. And I just got an office job at the university, which I enjoyed because I just wanted a desk job. I wasn't very ambitious growing up because I don't know, I just didn't. But then I had a lot of supervisors saying, "Hey, Tyreen, just get your degree, take one class a term, you'll get there eventually." And yeah, it took me like, I don't know, 12 years to finally get my bachelor's degree. I got it in liberal studies, nothing too exciting. But then when I got my first records job, my boss was like, "Hey, Tyreen, why don't you join this group called ARMA, go to their first chapter meeting and look into getting your CRM credential." I'm like, "Okay." And that's when I met the most amazing people. And it's a story that I tell a lot. I walked into this restaurant that I've never been at, even though I live in this area, to meet people I've never met, to talk about a topic I've never heard about. And the first thing I saw when I walked into that room, imagine me being scared, believe it or not, I was definitely, and still am a little bit of an introvert. I was intimidated by all these grown-ups and these professionals. But the first person I saw was this guy named Tim, and he said, "Hey, you're Tyreen, right?" Like, "Yeah, I'm Tim. I'm the chapter president. Welcome, come sit with us here. You could sit next to this nice lady named Ellie. She's really fun." And I sat next to Ellie, and I'll never forget this. I swear she said this. She said, "Hey, Tyreen, thanks for joining us. Records management is sexy." Again, that was so long ago, but I'll never forget it. And everyone has been so nice and kind. And I love the fact that even though there were a lot of seasoned professionals in this room, nobody was like, "I know everything. I'm the smartest one in the room." Everyone was so humble and so generous with their time to help me, to teach me, to show me what they know. Anyway, that's why it's so special to me for me to be in this profession. And I'm hoping some of you have felt the same way too by being in ARMA or just meeting other people in our profession. Okay, back to the slideshow. So, like I said, it's pretty easy to build relationships with other records management people because It's so easy. We just say, hey, if we're amongst each other, we say, hey, I manage records information. And then say, I do too. Oh my gosh. And for us introverts, just saying that simple statement is easy because it's short, it's friendly, and it doesn't scream like compliance police, right? And more often than not, people perk up. Then suddenly, you're not the person who's just about to hit them up with a retention schedule. You're the person who might just save them from their shared drive nightmare. You might just be the one who could help them find that one file they swore they saved last year, but has now vanished into the digital void. So again, how do we make these connections? Like I said, between us, I think it's pretty easy. If anyone's going to InfoCon, it's really easy to just kind of make connections and make friends there because we're all doing the same thing. But if you're talking to some normies, as I call them, just kidding, non-records people, or muggles, maybe if you want to call them, use real life examples. Help them to see how information management plays out in their world. Tell the story of how metadata saved the day, or how a naming convention turned chaos into clarity. Or, like as I said before, tell them that RIM is a support service. It's an internal service to help them. It's not a compliance hammer. We are not here to make things harder. We are here to help make sense of things. And above all, ask what they need. Start with their pain points and then show them how you can help them get where they're going faster, safer, and smarter. Again, some of the best conversations have been happening at ARMA conferences and seminars because everyone there just gets it. We wrestled with these same policies, the same people, and the same rogue spreadsheets. There's a real sense of community there, and it reminds you that we are not alone, and neither are our frustrations. So when you bring that energy back to your organization, you don't just represent records, you start to represent collaboration. Because the bottom line is that we don't live in an island. We don't work in a vacuum. We are here to support the mission of the organization. And that means working closely with legal and IT, even if we don't always speak the same language. But we're going to get better at that, right? Right. So let's talk about the sharks, the lawyers that shift that spotlight from our own world and step into the world of legal, where words can be weighted like gold, commas can change the course of a contract, and brevity is the four-letter word, right? As you know, pop culture hasn't exactly done legal any favors, and we've seen it all, right? The high drama courtroom theatrics, like Tom Cruise saying, I want the truth, or the quirky sitcom legal eagles from Night Court or Boston Legal, or the overly serious types, the ones buried in the books, quoting case law at parties. Please don't be that person. Or you have that quiet burnout, the ones who thought they'd be fighting for justice, but are now knee-deep in indemnity clauses and red lines. So when we think of legal, we might picture someone equally parts brilliant, overworked, or maybe just a little intimidating. And honestly, sometimes that image makes it harder to approach them. We'll assume they'll say no before we even ask the question, or that they'll wrap every answer in three layers of disclaimers. But underneath it all, that formality is just a department that, like us, is focused on protecting the organization. They just do it in a little different way. And it's our job to start the conversation in a way that builds trust, not tension. Oh, anyone afraid of lawyers? Probably not that many, by looking at that first poll slide. Looks like we've got a lot of, love for the lawyer profession here. But some people really are intimidated to speak to lawyers. You could practically see them just like getting tense, not wanting to do it. They'll say they'll suck my time and my energy and maybe even my soul. They'll use legalese I don't understand, or they'll say no to everything, or they'll take 3 weeks to get back to me, and the answer will still be maybe. And yes, those fears don't come from nowhere. Sometimes legal really does take a while to respond. Sometimes they do bury an answer in enough caveats to fill a contract appendix. And yes, sometimes no is their default setting, But it's not because they enjoy saying it. It's because they're trained to think about the worst case scenario first. That's their job. Again, to protect the organization, minimize risk, and to make sure we don't accidentally wander into lawsuit territory. That image of legal as a group of unapproachable naysayers in red tape, it's incomplete. Behind the formal tone and cautious language, there are actually people who are trying to juggle 10 urgent things at once. They are wading through unclear regulations, making judgment calls under pressure, or they're brought in too late to fix something they could have prevented if only they'd been asked earlier. And just like us, they are operating in a world where the rules keep changing. So they're not trying to be difficult. They're just trying to keep the wheels on the bus while the bus is on fire, rolling down a hill, headed straight for a compliance audit. So what can we do? Now, we don't need to become lawyers ourselves, but we can learn how to work with them more efficiently. That starts with empathy and a little strategy. So let's speak their language, but only just enough. You don't need to know what force majeure means, although bonus points if you do, but it helps to be clear, precise, and prepared when you approach them. If you can outline your goals first and your constraints up front, they'll appreciate that you are respecting their time. So anticipate the risk lens. Legal isn't always going to care about how easy something is to implement. They care whether it opens the organization to liability. If you could show that you thought through those concerns, even just a little bit, you've already earned a little bit of trust. Don't wait for perfection. One of the biggest bottlenecks with legal is the assumption that everything has to be airtight before you bring it to them. But if you wait too long, they might have to unwind a whole system that's already in motion. So please do involve them early, even if it's just to say, hey, here's what we're thinking. Does this raise any red flags? Another thing you could do is to ask them, what would make you comfortable instead of, can we do this? That subtle shift in language actually changes the tone from a confrontation to a collaboration. Instead of backing them into a corner, you are opening the door to find a path forward together. Because at the end of the day, legal wants the same thing we do, to help the business succeed without stepping on a regulatory landmine. They just come at it from a different direction with a different set of tools. So when you find yourself about to groan at the idea of looping in legal, take a breath. Remember, they are not the enemy. They are not out to ruin your day. In fact, every time I say this, I always think of the Hunger Games. Remember who the true enemy is. Sorry. Um, so lawyers are just fluent in a very specific dialect of no, and it's our job to translate that into a workable yes. So, the reality and culture of legal, yes, they actually do have one. Or I like to call it living with lawyers, literally and professionally. So, here's what I've learned from years of working with lawyers at work and, as I said, at home too. For the record, living with a lawyer means everything in our house comes with disclaimers, even dinner plans. I know this is recorded, but I will say, because I don't think he's ever going to watch this, he can never say like 100% true statement. He'll say like, he'll still, instead of saying, oh yes, that show is on Netflix, he'll say, I think that show's on Netflix. Or he'll say like, he won't say like the sky is blue, like, I've heard the sky is blue. It's like, I get it. You never want to like make a true, because he'll always like, whatever. Okay, sorry. Not a therapy session. First of all, there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all lawyer. There are different kinds of lawyers. We talked about the first one in a couple slides ago. Those are the trial lawyers, the ones you'll see in the courtroom dramas. They're the more theatrical types, right? They tend to be assertive and fast talking. Think objection energy. But actually, most of the lawyers I've worked with are called the transactional lawyers. They are the behind the scenes, detail-orientated, risk-managing kind. They're the ones combing through contracts, thinking 10 steps ahead, and making sure nothing explodes later. They are methodical, they are cautious, they are strategic. And here's the thing most people don't realize. This is probably the most important thing I say about lawyers in this entire presentation. They didn't go to law school to learn all the laws. They went to law school to learn how to analyze. Yes. Lawyers are trained to spot potential risks the way a chess master sees a checkmate coming 12 moves ahead. That's why they seem to play out every single what if scenario, some of which sound like the plot to a dystopian legal thriller. But it's not pessimism, it's just preparation. They're also highly contextual people. If you walk in with a question but give them only half the picture, they're going to give you an answer that sounds, well, vague or incomplete or overly cautious or ask you more questions. That's because they're not giving you the answer. They're giving you a map. Here are the options, here are the risks, here's what could happen, and here's how badly. Because believe it or not, again, I am not an attorney, but the way I've seen lawyers function with their clients is that the lawyers lay out the options, and then the client is actually the one that makes a decision. So the lawyer says, yes, you can do option A, but it's really high risk. But if you do option C, it's still a win-win and it has lower risk. But the client can definitely choose option A, even though it's more risky, right? That's their prerogative. So it's your organization's job to pick a route based on risk tolerance, and your job as the records professional to help explain where that road leads. And one more thing about lawyers. Yes, lawyers might only feed at night. Just kidding. Mostly, they're a different kind of people. Okay, so we talked about some techniques with working with the sharks, the legal people. How do we go from caution tape to collaboration? As I said before, don't expect a one sentence answer. Legal issues are rarely that simple. If you ask, can I delete this file? Don't expect a simple yes or no. You're going to get a paragraph, a minimum, with footnotes. Yeah, and when you walk into their office, start with just a simple conversation. Don't just drop a document on their desk with a sticky note that says, please review. Give them some context. Say, hey, I'd love to walk you through what this is, what we're trying to do, and where I think the tricky parts may be. Again, give them the full context. Who is involved? What's the business goal? What's the risk if we get this wrong? The more you share, the more helpful and targeted their advice will be. Define your terms. Oh boy, this is a big one. Just because you know what a records retention schedule is, doesn't mean that they do. Or worse, they may think it means something else entirely. So take the time to explain what you mean. Even better, ask them what they mean when they use certain terms you don't understand. They'll respect you more than just you trying to fake it and say, oh yeah, yeah, I know what you mean by that. Oh yeah, right? And this one, respecting their time, that goes for everybody, right? But with advice takes a lot of research, nuance, and most importantly, clear documentation. That's especially true when it's written down. Legal can't afford to be sloppy with language because words might show up in court someday, like literally. And lastly, understand their role. If legal seems like a roadblock, it's not because they're trying to sink your project. It's because their job is, again, protect the organization from lawsuits, from fines, from reputational damage. That means that their priorities might look like delays to you, but they're actually just safeguards. So here's a bonus round talking about, terms and defining things. Let's learn how to speak a little bit of legal. So, legal language is very precise and sometimes wildly different from how we use terms in tech or records. So, take words like retain, archive, or dispose. In legal's worlds, those might have specific definitions tied to regulations or precedent. And in ours, we might just be talking about folder permissions. So try to mirror their vocabulary when you can. If they say risk exposure, You usually say, and you usually say data loss, go to with their version. You're showing respect for their framework. And if you don't know what a term means, again, just ask. They'd rather define it for you now and find out later than find out later that you misunderstood something critical. And finally, when you're explaining something about records or tech heavy, translate it into risk terms. So don't say something like, we need metadata for this record life cycle. Say something like, this metadata helps us prove chain of custody in the event of litigation. That's the kind of language that makes legal sit up and go, ah, you get it. So this is where it all comes together. Because for all the differences in culture, language, and communication styles, RIM and legal are actually working towards the same goal. Your RIM program, it's built on legal requirements, retention rules, privacy laws, regulatory timelines, industry standards. And that's legal's entire universe. When you manage records the right way, you're not just helping the business run smoothly, you are supporting all these things. Regulatory compliance, litigation readiness, discovery and legal holds, privacy and defensible deletion, and yes, reducing risk. In other words, RIM isn't just a back office function. It's a risk management tool. It's a legal defense strategy. It's a partner in compliance. And legal? Yes, they need you whether they know it or not. So don't position your program as, we just want to keep things tidy. Position it as, we are here to help you protect the organization. And again, speak their language, show your map. Here's one of the most effective ways to build that bridge. In your first meeting with legal, bring a high-level inventory or data map. It doesn't have to be fancy, but it should say, here's what we got, here's where it lives, here's some of the risks we've spotted, like uncontrolled file shares, shadow systems, or rot data. Rot data, just for people who don't know, rot is ROT. It stands for redundant, obsolete, or trivial data. Then you could ask them, from your perspective, which of these should we tackle first? And then something magical happens. Legal moves from being that group that signs off on your plan to being the group that helps shape your plan. And that guidance, it can become the rationale for funding, for cross-departmental buy-in, and for long-term support. Because once legal says, yes, this is important, others will listen. So when you show up prepared with context, strategy, and shared goals, you're not just managing records, you're helping the legal team do their job better. That's how you move from being the records folks to being trusted strategic partners. All right, let's move on to the techs. We are more than just hoodie-wearing keyboard wizards. These are the folks that keep everything running. The systems we rely on, the servers we never see but we silently salute. They are the reason we mostly get to our files when we need them. And yes, they definitely have opinions about the cloud, very strong ones. But before we dive in too deep, let's just have a little bit of fun because you've probably heard these before, right? We wear glasses, wear hoodies, have a permanent squint from staring at four monitors in dark mode all day. We may come across as a little patronizing, especially if we don't speak tech. We probably all want the shiny new thing, whether it fits into the organization's actual needs. We prefer code over humans. Well, sometimes. We are emotionless logic bots who answer every question with "it depends." Or we are fully immersed in the sacred canon of Star Trek, Star Wars, Stargate, or Battlestar. Bonus points if they quote Picard in meetings, right? And of course, these are just tropes. They're fun, but they are a little unfair. Because under the hood, most IT professionals are deeply passionate, highly skilled, and care a lot about doing things the right way. They just have a little different way of expressing it. And those stereotypes, They really just highlight the communication gap that often exists between tech teams and the rest of us. And the challenge isn't technical, it's actually more cultural. And that's what we'll explore next. How to work with tech in a way that bridges that gap and turns them into your greatest implementation allies. But first, know this. Under that hoodie is someone who wants to make sure things work, who wants systems to be secure, and who, believe it or not, really does want to help. You've just got to know how to speak their language too. So, fear and loathing in the server room. Here are the fears. They'll talk down to me. They'll, they'll, I won't be able to follow what they're saying. They'll make it sound like I'm asking for something impossible. They'll brush me off, or they'll expect me to use 17 different tools to move a file from one folder to another. That fear of being overwhelmed, dismissed, or ignored is not in your head. It's a very real dynamic that a lot of RIM professionals have experienced. It's because they're also dealing with a ton of different competing priorities. Outages, cyber threats, upgrades, shadow systems, user requests. Someone somewhere has always clicked the wrong link, right? So when you come in with a records related request, it can feel like you're being handed a cup of alphabet soup in a hurricane and told, just make it work. But here's the good news. With the right approach and a little translation, you can get through. You can turn that initial tech tension into meaningful collaboration. We just have to stop thinking of it as us between them and start seeing it as we both want this to work. So how do we get there together? So let's take a step back and learn about the truth about our friends in IT. Because IT is not just one big monolith. It's not just all like IT people. Just like the lawyers, there are many different types of IT people. The first that we have are business analysts, like me, right? It's your best bet for human-friendly conversations because we speak both tech and people, and they're all about gathering requirements and solving problems collaboratively. It's sort of like in Office Space. Remember that guy with the glasses? He's like, I talk to the customers so the engineers don't have to. That's us. Systems analysts are similar. We are the puzzle solvers who help configure systems and make sure they work the way they're supposed to. So think of us as the mechanics of the digital world. Programmers and developers. Okay, these are the hardcore builders. These are the folks you could see that can create anything if you could tell them exactly what you need. So spoiler alert, vague requests won't get you that far. Then you have the network engineers. These are the unsung heroes making sure your Zoom calls, like this one, don't crash and your systems actually talk to each other. And then you have the database administrators. These are the guardians of your data. They keep it clean, accessible, and secure because no one likes a corrupted backup. And then you have the security specialists. These are the folks who never sleep, constantly monitoring, testing, and securing your systems so that your organization doesn't end up on the evening news. So, yes, they're not ignoring you. They're probably just juggling flaming compliance chainsaws while trying to patch a server at 2 a.m. It's also worth remembering that, yes, a lot of IT professionals are introverts. They're not unfriendly, they're just focused, thoughtful, often working quietly in the background, solving problems no one sees until something breaks. And here's what's really fascinating. They often have a bird's eye view of the organization because they've seen it all, right? They can see everything. They know which systems exist, they know who's using them, and they know how to connect them all. They might even know where the digital bodies are buried. And they understand compliance too, but their version of it might look a little different from legal's or ours. Where legal sees risk, IT might see uptime. Where RIM sees retention, IT might see storage management. It's not that they don't care, it's just that they're optimizing for a different layer of the puzzle. And yes, let's not forget this important truth. They are people too. Some of the kindest, most collaborative, most quietly heroic colleagues I've ever worked with have been in IT. In fact, I'm going to give a shout out to our network infrastructure manager, Chris, at the city of Beaverton. He's been there for so long. He has all this institutional knowledge, but he's like the most humble, quiet guy. He has the funniest stories if you start talking to him, but he knows like where everything is, and he's just like on top of his game, dude. It's sad because I think he's gonna retire in a couple years, but he like doesn't want a big party or anything. He just wants to let go quietly in the wind. And I think a lot of people should be celebrating him. So I don't know what I'm gonna do about that. Anyway, sorry. Chris is great. I always think about Chris when I talk about this. So with IT people, you just have to meet them halfway. So learn their rhythm, learn their priorities, and most importantly, learn how to speak their language. So let's learn how to do that. So how do we connect with our IT allies? You have to learn one simple thing that might blow a few minds. Again, this may be one of the most important things I say about tech in this entire presentation. You cannot program human discretion. That's something that I learned from a project manager when we were implementing our court management system years ago. It just doesn't commute, right? Because systems only follow logic. If this, then that, period. They don't do probably, they don't do it depends, and they definitely don't do user best judgment. We had a lot of conversations with our court staff when we were trying to program their workflows about how they do things, and I just remember the project manager saying that you cannot program human discretion. So when you have a retention policy that says something like, keep this for 7 years unless it's still relevant or unless someone higher up decides otherwise. Yeah, that's not going to translate cleanly into code, but that's okay. But it just means you need to be ready to explain your needs in a structured, logical way. So, here's how to make that conversation go a little more smoothly. First of all, break it down. What's the trigger for retention? What's the workflow? Are there any exceptions? And how would someone know when they apply? So you don't need to know all the answers, but you do know to be able to frame the problem clearly. You could also use visuals. IT people love a good diagram, right? We love flow charts, swim lanes, decision trees, or even just a simple before and after sketch on a whiteboard can go a long way. And it takes your abstract policies and turns them into something that can be mapped, built, or automated. And show some curiosity. Ask questions, even if they sound a little beginner. That's totally fine. Like, how does this system handle file metadata? Or could that drop-down field be auto-populated? Or what's the easiest way to flag something for a legal hold? You'll definitely learn a lot, and they'll appreciate you for trying to understand their world. You could also use analogies. That's my favorite tool for talk to IT, even though I am IT. But everyone loves like Legos. Think of it as a Lego sets. You need to find the right bricks and snap them together. Think of it as video games or trying to unlock this hidden level without setting off the security alarm, or think of it as sandwiches. We've already have the bread and cheese. We're just trying to automate the mustard step. Because in the end, it's not about becoming a tech expert. About becoming a bridge, someone who can translate business goals into systems, policies into logic, and relationships into real progress. And that's where the magic begins. So let's learn to speak a little bit of tech, right? So IT folks think in terms of systems, workflows, and logic trees. So if this happens, then this happens, unless this exemption applies, then route it here. And it's to present your RIM needs in a way that they can diagram, configure, or code. And so use the right terms or like index, structure, repository, automation. These are gold when used correctly. So if you're going to use these words with IT, make sure you agree upon what the definitions are. So instead of just saying we want this to be searchable, try saying something like we want users to use filter records by department, date created, and retention status. Can we then tag those fields to make that work? That now you're speaking their language, right? Know what they care about. They care about security, performance, scalability, and integration. And again, if you're not sure how to explain something, just ask. Not in a defensive way, but with genuine curiosity. That would earn a lot of trust. So, let's level up from IT being a nice to have to a need to partner. We've learned to speak tech, we've traded analogies and acronyms, but now let's team up. Because here's where your relationship with IT really levels up. Records management can be a strategic ally to IT because we're not just asking for help, we are bringing the help. Your RIM program can directly support big ticket IT initiatives like cleaning up shared drives, decommissioning legacy systems, or archiving or securely disposing of outdated data, consolidating repositories to make things easier to find, manage, and protect. You are bringing structure to the digital chaos. So you're not just a speed bump to the progress, you are a GPS for responsible growth. So in your first real sit down with IT, don't just start with your priorities. Again, start with their priorities. Ask them what systems are working well, what's on the chopping block, what are you secretly hoping will disappear, what are the biggest integration headaches. So when you start it that way, you're not just another person bringing a problem, you are someone offering structure, clarity, and cleanup. And always ask, who's actually supporting this system? Because a beautiful retention schedule is great, but if there's no one who can implement it, enforce it, or automate it, it's just a pretty PDF collecting digital dust. Because when IT sees you as someone who could help them retire old tech, reduce compliance headaches, and align systems with business needs, you're not just the records person, you're a partner in transformation. And that's a relationship worth investing in. So, after we've talked about the sharks, the wrecks, and the techs, who has the rules? Who has the tools? Think of your records management program like a building. Legal gives you the rules, the blueprints that tell you what needs to be protected, what can be disposed of, and how things should be structured for compliance. IT gives you the tools, the hammer, the nails, the fancy smart lighting system that makes everything run smoothly, efficiently, and securely. And records, we are the ones who know what the building is for, how people will move through it, and how to keep it safe, functional, and up to code. We understand the flow, how information is used, accessed, and retained over time. We're the ones who will ensure that it makes sense and it stays organized. Because we are building something solid, sustainable, and strategic. So now that we met all the players, we've cleared up the myths, named the fears, and peeked behind the curtain. We brought it all together, right? Legal is our guiding light. Again, they tell us what to keep and for how long, when a record becomes litigation worthy, what constitutes compliance, and let's be honest, non-compliance. And then and then the texts help us enforce those laws. They help us with the how. They help select the systems. They know how to connect the systems. They ensure security, access control, and data integrity. Because without IT, we're not managing records, we're managing just folders and wishful thinkings. And when these partnerships are working, it's like a building with a solid foundation and the right framework. All right. We are running a little bit low on time, so I'm going to skip a couple of these slides. Because our program is a shared mission, right? We have one more fun little poll. Again, go to menti.com. It's the same code, 41099211, or use the QR code. I'll give you just a couple minutes on that. And yeah. So, after this legal IT safari, who's your dream travel buddy? Is it legal because they packed the disclaimers and emergency plans? Is it IT because they brought the GPS and the debugging tools? Is it both because chaos is my comfort zone? Or neither because I'm heading to HR snack table? I will say something about HR, even though this is about tech and IT. I don't know why, but everywhere I go, HR isn't the most liked department. But I think at the city that they're trying to change that reputation because they have really fun things we get to do. Like they brought in some baby goats for us to pet, which is fun because it's a very, stress-free thing. I mean, they said, "Hey, come on your own, unpaid time, come pet the baby goats," right? So I don't want to give too much shade to HR, but they do have nice snacks. Wow, both. All right. Nice. That's right, because legal and IT and RAM, we're the dream team, right? Okay, I've still got some people who would like to stay with the lawyers. Obviously, that's a solid plan. I like lawyers too. IT, yep, I live in that world too. IT people are fun, but a lot of people like both. Wow, I think I don't know. Maybe I changed some minds today. That's pretty cool. Let's see, one more slide. Yes, we're together at last. We're the bridge. We're the translator. We're the advocate. We're the strategist. In fact, some people have called me, since I kind of live in both worlds, I'm the linchpin. Tyrene, you're the linchpin between legal and IT. And with that, that's me. Thank you for coming today. Feel free to reach out to me, email me if you have any questions about this. And Ed, I'm ready to take some questions with the few minutes we have left.
There you probably haven't been reading the chat. People have asked if
Oh,
they might uh,
I do
and
see now.
chat your
Sorry.
your email in the chat. We'll put that in there. Are you open to making these slides available? Can we share these?
Of course.
Okay, so that was a question in the chat, and then you also got a request to be a mentor to some people.
Oh,
So there's some post webinar work for you there,
yeah,
Tyree.
I see it.
But anything else that comes up in the chat, or if you folks want to email us later, we're happy to address any questions and come back to you. With that, I'm going to say this is a wrap, Tyrene. Thank you very much. And everybody, please have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
See you later.